when people ask me who is Matteo, I always say he's a superhuman. He has superpowers. Matteo speaks 10,000 languages. That's what I say to people. And that's true. You speak 10,000 languages for me.
I really wish.
So tell us about the languages that you speak. I know you speak French. You speak English. You speak Italian. You speak Spanish. You speak Russian. You speak Japanese.
Yes.
And more. Like, how do you do that? I have two questions for you. How do you do that? And how can we do the same?
First of all, thank you for defining me superhuman, because that's the best definition somebody ever gave me. So I'm quite happy about it and honored. But yeah, languages have always been a part of my life. My grandma calls me the talking machine or the brain eater because I talk a lot. Because I'm a chatterbox. Yeah.
The brain eater.
But I have to say that I was blessed. I was gifted with this. I started learning languages very, very early. At least I started with English very early when I was around 6 or 7 in school, you know, and then the other languages just came by. I think you mentioned Japanese, but I think Japanese has always been a passion of mine because I've practiced martial arts for more or less 25 years. And I've always loved Japanese culture. So I think it was a must for me to also learn the language. And I also love doing voice acting in it. So for me, it's more a game. And I think that the answer to how can somebody learn all these languages actually lies in rejection, surprisingly. But whenever you try to communicate with somebody who doesn't speak common language, such as English, for example, the rejection there is that the communication between you two is rejected from both sides. You are rejecting the possibility of communicating with a person, and the other person, is rejecting the possibility of communicating with you because there is no means of creating that desire of communication. So in my case, I've always been somebody who wanted to surround himself with a lot of people, as my grandfather. And I thought, what better way of doing it, if not with languages? And I started with English, then Spanish, ancient Greek, and Latin even came to play because in high school, that's what I used to also study. And then all the other languages came from German from my previous partner, Russian, and all the others came from many other experiences with life, many other rejections of communications that I wanted to sort of transform into not rejections anymore. Let's say like this.
Definitely. That makes sense. How do we become polyglot like you?
How does somebody become a polyglot? The answer is very simple. You need a lot of commitment. I'm not talking about language courses or hours and hours of studying grammars or workbooks or, I don't know, just imagining yourself with your head down on a table and blaming everything because you're not getting a word. No. Commitment to communicate with people. So, of course, the most important tool, yes, is having a grammar or somebody or teacher or tutor that will give you the basics. And the basics are very important because it's how you know how a sentence is formed or the basics of vocabulary. But the commitment that I'm talking about is a second step, which is the commitment to communicate with the people around you, even at the cost of knowing that you are going to make mistakes. Only by doing that, only by creating that communication, and only by making those mistakes, you will become fluent. And trust me, I can make you a very quick example. When I arrived in Dublin, I didn't know any Portuguese. I started very quickly learning some words with a grammar, but then I started listening to Portuguese music, to Brazilian music. And that was giving me already the basics. But the next step was missing. So I started talking to people at the bar, on the streets, whatever, that I knew were Brazilians or Portuguese. And I was making a lot of mistakes. Like, I'm not denying it. I was mentioning, like, the music I was listening to was mainly about love and suffering. So I was literally talking to people about love and suffering. And you can imagine how fun that could have been. But it helped me in learning which words were actually more common for specific objects, feelings, and so on. And now I'm fluent.